Good evening, brothers. My name is Brittany Ramsey, and I am the Region H Chair for all of Ohio, Indiana, and Northern Kentucky chapters of Alpha Phi Omega. This is a recorded version of our virtual recruitment workshop. I last presented this at our virtual Section H3 officer retreat, and I'm sure you'll be seeing this material at some of our other section officer retreats later this fall. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. My contact info will be listed at the end of this PowerPoint, and we can put you in touch with either our region membership chair or your section chair and section staff members to help support your chapters as you prepare for fall recruitment. Let's go ahead and get started. To begin with tonight's presentation, I wanted to help reiterate the importance of having pledge classes in all of our chapters. This is info that you can take back to your chapter membership committees, your exec teams, as well as the rest of your active brotherhood, to encourage everyone to continue pledge classes in today's very uncertain society with everything that's been happening with the COVID-19 situation. And we have no idea how long these virtual operations or needs will last, but we want to make sure that we're preparing for as many future pledge classes as we can to continue the health of our chapters. Some of these important factors to remember with having pledge classes include the need to recover any past or anticipated membership decreases. Did you have a lot of graduating seniors this past spring? Were you unable to initiate a spring pledge class? So you're already facing that membership deficit. That's probably the first and foremost thing that we think of when we're talking about planning for upcoming recruitment or pledge classes. It's very important to have ongoing recruitment, to be bringing in these new groups of pledges every semester, to continue keeping your chapter full of new voices and new perspectives and new leadership styles, to continue to innovate and to be creative and to bring new life into the chapter on campus so that our programming doesn't get stale. We have new ideas and new people to meet, and it's an everlasting chapter. We want to avoid leaving any chapter with a lack of history or experience and training that can come with having our older members or our more experienced members training and mentoring the new pledge classes that come in. If we can't pass down those traditions or the culture and the brotherhood that we have grown in this chapter with the new pledge class, that will eventually die off with the last remaining graduating senior. It's also really important with everything that's happening across the country and across the world today to offer potential pledges the chance to have that group on campus that's a safe space. They have the support and friendship that APO is known for, and with everything that's being thrown at students nowadays, and with all the constant changes as far as campus learning and virtual operations and things that are happening in today's news, I can't think of a better place for a new student, especially the incoming freshmen or first year students, to go to than an APO chapter. It also offers the opportunity to have your actives, especially the seniors, mentor a group of new students. So if you're a chapter that has a big little program, or you do any type of APO family structure, you want to make sure that we're not leaving out that opportunity for seniors to be able to connect with first years or for new recruits, make those connections, mentor them, help pass down that history and experience, and really have that experience of getting to be the older brother in the chapter and experience their senior year to its fullest. And lastly, overall, it's important that we can help ensure a healthy future for all of our chapters as soon as this COVID-19 situation has come to a rest. So that is what we are encouraging all of our chapters to think about when planning for this fall's pledge class, when thinking about a membership program year over year, and what even next semester is going to look like. If you have any questions on this, or you are struggling reiterating these notes to your chapter, please reach out to your chapter advisors, your section chairs, or our region staff volunteers, and we'd be happy to help you all kind of navigate this new scenario. This is the biggest question that I want all of our chapters and our volunteers to be thinking about when deciding or determining what the chapter operations will look like this fall, and that's how are we leaving this chapter for the next 2 to 4 years. So instead of thinking of just how am I getting through these next 2 weeks, or how do we just get through fall recruitment, or just this 1 week of programming, really what are the decisions that we're making now? What are the plans that we're making now for the chapter and any of those decisions, how are those all going to affect the chapter for the next 2 to 4 years, especially if you're a junior or senior and you will be gone after that point from college. How are you leaving this chapter for future first years and sophomores to come into? Next, we're going to dive into understanding what is virtual recruitment in and of itself, understanding what is going to be happening from the campus side of things. Are they going to be hosting a virtual student org fair? Are they hosting a central website, or do you already have a student org site that incoming students or new students can find student orgs? If your university isn't set up to have pages for student orgs on their actual website, do you have some type of hub like OrgSync that students can go to see an e-bulletin for any news from student orgs? Really find out what the campus resources are going to be like if they're requiring orgs to go virtual this fall, which I know a lot of our schools are. And then we can figure out innovative solutions to work around whatever is not provided by the university. That means probably getting a lot more heavily involved in and acclimated in social media, using flyers a lot more on campus, seeing if you can request email lists, etc. I know that with things moving virtually, a lot of universities might be open to hearing new solutions that haven't happened in the past. Maybe the housing and res life departments can forward on a flyer from your organization to the first year email list, or something like that, or maybe a certain department can send out an email for your org if it relates to it. If you have a campus service organization or department on your campus, can they send out an email to all the students signed up on their email list for you? Things like that. So I know that a lot of our recruitment efforts in the past have been based around in-person events like an org fair or tabling or hosting events on campus to kind of grab students' attention and bring them into the event and things like that. And now we're going to have to figure out a lot more passive opportunities for recruitment as far as advertising goes, marketing on campus. And luckily, our national membership program chair, Brandon Fairchild, is working with his national committee on developing a ton of membership resources, especially for the virtual environment this fall. So within the next couple of weeks, we should see their new virtual recruitment toolkit coming out. And it's going to include a bunch of the different resources that you see below listed there. One of the neat thing I thought that they were working on, in addition to all of the other programs that they've put out for pledge education and membership, are these digital marketing tools. I think that's something that goes super hand in hand with membership when it comes to talking about recruitment. So they're coming out with some digital marketing training and branded templates. So if you are a chapter that has struggled with marketing in the past, or social media is not really in the forte of your active brotherhood, they will be coming out with branded templates that any chapter can use, I'm sure with stock photos and great graphics and things like that, that you can help disseminate on your campus or on social media to help advertise AFIO in your area. A big piece of planning for virtual recruitment, or if you have to do a hybrid in-person and virtual recruitment this fall, is going to be understanding what the campus restrictions are going to be. This is also super vital for our chapter advisors and section staff to understand what the university COVID-19 response is going to be. You can typically find this by Googling or searching the university name and COVID-19 response, and most of our universities have set up specific website pages where they've centralized all this information, and that's super helpful. The biggest question for our volunteers will be if visitors are allowed, and it seems like a majority of our chapters have limited visitors for the rest of the year. And for the couple or the 2 or 3 chapters that do allow visitors, there are a lot of different requirements to meet for social distancing and wearing masks and things like that. So we want to make sure, as far as the alumni volunteers go, that we're really versed and ready to help our chapters along with whatever the campus restrictions will be. And then as far as chapter officers go, you want to make sure that you understand these response requirements based on any social distancing rules for your chapter meetings, for pledge meetings, any of your recruitment events this fall, or regular chapter programming events. If you have any questions about these things, as far as your campus restrictions go, I really recommend you set up a meeting with your student affairs or your student involvement office, check in with your faculty advisor to see if they have any resources that they can provide you or any additional support that they can provide you on the campus. If you haven't worked closely with the faculty advisor before, I think this would be the perfect semester to start opening that connection and communication channel. Since those are the only advisors that might be allowed on your campus this fall, make sure they're invited to any events that you're having, especially the virtual operations, so that they can feel a lot more connected to your chapter this fall and help if anything comes up that's on campus. And then lastly, make sure that we're keeping up to date with any of the state of Ohio rules for those chapters. This was from an H3 retreat PowerPoint, but that goes along with Indiana and Kentucky as well. All three of those states that encompass our region handle the COVID-19 situation a little bit differently and have different requirements. So wherever your chapter is based, you want to make sure that you are following along with those rules as well. Here are some campus marketing ideas. I pulled this photo from the Zeta Lambda chapter at the University of Toledo. This is a really neat event they got to do last spring. They partnered with, I think, their campus food and beverage industry or something like that department, and they got to serve Italian cream sodas to everybody on campus. So it was a neat way to work with another org and get marketing that way, but also meet all the students on campus and kind of talk to them about AFIO while their brothers volunteered for shifts throughout the day. Here are a couple other campus marketing ideas: just doing flyers, tabling if you're able to, chalking. See if your university and any of your academic buildings will let you rent a trophy case if they're not using them anymore, and you can make a nice display case for AFIO. If there's any bulletin boards that you can utilize, ask the housing and res life departments if you're able to do dorm storms. And if you don't know what that is, it's where you work with somebody in res life, like an RA or an RC, and you work with them to come in and flyer all over the dorm and put a bunch of flyers on everybody's doors and maybe take over one of their bulletin boards for the floor, things like that. So if you have a housing and res life department you can work with, that would be something really neat to try, and that helps you target different age groups on campus if you're looking for bringing in a lot of first years or sophomores, if you're a very senior heavy chapter, things like that. If you're able to do service events on campus, that can help market as well. If there's anything that you can collaborate with another department or organization on campus to help get your name out there and follow any of the campus restrictions, that would be a neat way to help get your name out there. I know some of our universities in other sections have collaborated with Res Life on move-in day, and I know that looks very differently across the country this fall, but if you're still able to do something like that, helping with move-in day or move-out days, it's a great chance to connect with students and their parents and wear your letters and advertise the fraternity as you're meeting all of these new students. Lastly, some outdoor signage or wearing letters are really great ways to have passive marketing on campus. If you encourage all your brothers to wear letters, I'm a huge fan of Wear Letters Wednesday. So maybe you pick one day a week and all of your actives wear letters around campus, and it's a great way just to have a lot of marketing happening on campus without having to host a specific event. I saw the Zeta Delta chapter at Miami last year, bought one of those big outdoor signs from, I'm sure, like FedEx Kinko's, and had their chapter social media info and recruitment info on there and APO in big letters, and hung that up between a couple trees on campus in the middle of all their student buildings, so everybody got to see it while they were walking around campus. And I thought that was one of the most innovative and creative things I've seen for recruitment in a while. Next, I've got another photo from one of our H3 chapters. This is Alpha Epsilon Beta at Ohio Northern University. And they are one of the first chapters I've seen actually get to do their recruitment tabling on campus in person, and obviously had to follow some social distancing rules and wearing masks. But I thought this was a really neat way to still be out there trying to meet students as safely as possible with a really bright sign and Alpha Phi Omega in big letters. And I thought this was just a really great example for any chapters that are gearing up or getting ready to do something similar. I've seen some chapters that are inhibited by having people host their tabling, but the universities are letting student orgs set up tables in maybe their student unions or centers, things like that, and just leave the table setups for the day. So if you're able to do that, then you could set up a really nice display board and maybe have some business cards or flyers for students to grab and go. When you're setting up these plans for recruitment and tabling, you want to make sure that you're following any of the university rules. If you get to have people in person there, obviously make sure everyone's wearing masks. Maybe have a couple extra of the disposable masks if people want to come up and talk to you and might not have one on them. Use as much colorful signage and big lettering as you can. Have something to pass out to them, and definitely wear letters. Here are some general tips for chapter social media. I'm on social media pretty regularly, just looking at the region page and all of our section accounts that we have. And it's a super great way to just keep actives and alumni members and even potential members that come to search you online updated with what your chapter is doing. I thought this was a really neat post from one of our H3 chapters at Bowling Green, the Zeta Kappa chapter. They posted this graphic. It was really bright and had big letters, and I think it's a great refresher on their social media page to show that they are planning things from recruitment. Activity is still going on in the chapter, and it gives people that search them that haven't heard of AFIO before on their campus kind of an update on what's going on and what to look forward to. If you don't have multiple accounts already, I highly recommend setting up chapter accounts on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter if that makes sense for the students on your campus. It's a great way to keep in touch with people, like I said, but also, especially with incoming students this fall, they are so used to having virtual operations and having to search for info coming to a brand new college campus and not having the same in-person opportunities that they were expecting. A lot of them are on social media looking for different class groups to join, like the class of 2024 and things like that. And if they hear about AFIO on your campus, I'm sure they will be Googling or searching your social media for your chapter. So you want to make sure that you have live pages up, that you're posting things, and it looks like an active group on your campus. You can utilize different things on your accounts, like posting or using live feeds on Facebook and Instagram. That's a super great way to show live activity or highlight something that's going on within your chapter. I also recommend posting a lot of different marketing tools. So instead of just posting a bunch of photos or asking brothers for photos to share, you can make graphics. You can utilize the branded graphics that are coming out from the National Membership Committee. Post some flyers like you see on the right. Use your Instagram or Facebook stories. Maybe ask for videos from active brothers that can give little highlights to their favorite memories in the chapter or words that they want to send to potential recruits. And make sure that you're encouraging the rest of your actives to engage online. So it doesn't just fall on your marketing chair's head or whoever's managing your social media accounts. Encourage your actives to maybe change their profile pictures to a recruitment graphic. Share some of the highlights of their time as an active. Maybe you can have them do takeovers where they take over the story for your chapter one day and share their day on campus or share some of their favorite memories. And if you know incoming freshmen or you know friends on campus that aren't involved in AFIO yet, encourage your actives to send them a message, even maybe an invite to a virtual recruitment event, and continue spreading the word as much as possible online. Next, I wanted to go over just word of mouth recruiting, some of the easiest things that I'm sure AFIO has been doing since its inception. The best way to do this is whether you're in a classroom in person or virtual, maybe ask the teacher if you're able to give a little spiel about your fraternity at the end of the class, just to highlight it to all the other students. Bring in a friend that you know that isn't in the chapter yet. You can help by reposting and sharing chapter social media. Like I said in the previous slide, changing your profile graphic, your profile picture to a recruitment graphic or something related to the fraternity. All of those things are helpful ways that active members can help bring in a larger pledge class. I think time and time again, when we ask people how they found the fraternity, myself included, it was always that a friend brought them into a recruitment event or encouraged them to come to the ceremony or something like that. So that's my story of how I found out about AFIO. It was a friend who brought me to a recruitment event, and I ended up pledging in. And so if we can all do that, if you encourage your actives, I've heard some chapters are giving service to the fraternity hours if they bring in a friend that ends up joining. So there's a lot of great ways that we can be of service to our fraternity and to the chapter on campus by encouraging those friends or classmates that we know to bring them in. And then lastly, just some tips on elevator pitches. If you don't know what an elevator pitch is, it's basically a sales pitch that you would have to give when you're in an elevator ride with somebody. So typically under a minute. If you're trying to sell them on something or encourage them to do something, what's that one last ditch effort that you can make in a couple seconds to encourage them to join? And that's a really great exercise that I know has been done at the membership academies in the past. That's a great fun exercise that you can do at a chapter meeting, even if it's virtual or an exec meeting. Have a couple volunteers practice a fun elevator pitch on the fly, and it's usually a really enjoyable experience for everybody. It's fun, and it can be kind of silly having everybody practice and just see what their best spiel can be. There's some things to keep in mind when you're making an elevator pitch. You want to hit on the value of AFIO. What can it bring to a student to join? What do you get out of the fraternity? What experiences can you gain? You can talk about our principles, leadership, fellowship, and service, how you can learn to become a servant leader, develop those leadership development skills, and obviously be of service and give back to our 4 pillars of service. You want to give a really good description of what we are, especially in terms of your chapter, what you're known for on campus, maybe some of your community partners or past events, things that you're really known for. Give them a strong reason to join. Why join AFIO over any other service club? What sets us apart? Personally, I think that's really the LD experience and the fellowship brotherhood experience. You don't get that out of any of the other service clubs on campus. And that's what makes the brotherhood such a deeper bond than just a service club. That goes along with differentiating ourselves from other organizations on campus. And then lastly, this is something new I added in to my list of elevator pitch tips. It's focusing on being accessible and advertising that to potential new members, where we might have been a little bit more restricted in our scheduling of events and things like that as chapters in the past were. Now you might have virtual events in your repertoire. There's a lot more ways for members to get their service hours completed. There's a lot better ways for them to access fellowship events and stay connected and things like that. Especially if you're from a commuter school or where travel was a little bit more inhibiting to its members for whatever reason, APO can be a lot more accessible to the members on its campus now or potential members. Like I said, this is a really great activity opportunity that I recommend you all take back to your chapters. Maybe do it during an exec meeting and have everyone practice their recruitment elevator pitches, especially before you start hosting any type of events. Don't throw a bunch of actives into a Zoom recruitment meeting and not explain how they can help interact with the members or how to introduce themselves effectively. We want to put our best foot forward, even if it's virtually, and make sure all of our members are ready for recruitment. When you're preparing for Rush or your recruitment program this fall, beyond just your recruitment events and marketing, you have to understand what the timeline is going to look like. And if there's one piece of advice that I can give anybody for planning for a membership program or recruitment in general, is to move away from calling it Rush Week. That is one of the things that I advise at any workshop I teach regarding membership or recruitment, and it is the biggest piece of advice that I can give you tonight. Move away from calling it Rush Week or Recruitment Week and really start looking at it as a program. And how many weeks can you really facilitate recruitment to get as an effective program developed as possible, and to encourage as large of a pledge class that makes sense for your chapter this fall. So what does that entail? I would recommend looking at the pledge program in and of itself along with recruitment at the same time, and that's really falling under the membership VP, to really look at it as an entire program put together for the whole chapter membership. So if you have to have on minimum, I think it's 6 to 7 weeks of pledge education, you want to have at least a solid 2 or 3 weeks of recruitment before that. And then at the end of pledge education, you want to have hopefully a week or two to do a little bit of aftercare and really help bridge those pledges into their active brotherhood after the ceremony and really acclimate them and get them welcomed and make sure that we continue taking care of them even after their pledges. So hopefully that works out for your academic schedules this fall. It might be a little shortened, or it might have to turn a little more virtual after Thanksgiving, but make sure that we move away from just having one single rush week if possible. I've seen chapters kind of stick to that calendar of like, okay, we can only have events Monday through Saturday. What are we doing for recruitment? And whatever or whoever we're able to recruit in those 5 or 6 days, that's going to be our pledge class, and we're going to move right into Pledge Ed and pledge them in. And when you do that, you really limit yourself on such a short time frame. And if somebody, for whatever reason, is really interested in the fraternity and doesn't hear about you until week 2, after you've already completed those recruitment efforts, you really leave out being able to fully market yourself and reach the rest of the campus. I don't know that there's a process that can only happen in 5 or 6 days and reach an entire college campus or make its way around word of mouth enough. So once you've figured out your timeline with the membership VP, you want to start preparing for your rush program. If you're going to have a theme, determine what that is going to be, whether that's with your membership committee, you work with exec on that, or you ask for chapter buy-in and get a lot of feedback from your actives. That can help create a lot more excitement and participation from your active brotherhood as well. Have your marketing chair or your team design the flyer and the graphics that everybody can use this fall. Make sure those are sent out to your actives. Get any campus pre-approved forms completed that you need. If you have to do something on OrgSync or any other website for the university before you're allowed to hang flyers or host any tabling, things like that, make sure that's taken care of. If you don't already, under your membership EP, if you're able to do so with your chapter membership size as it currently states, can you have a designated rush or recruitment committee? Can you have a designated chair? This is something that I always recommend if with some of our mid to larger size chapters, if you have just one membership VP and they're currently taking care of everything in regards to recruitment, pledge ed, and retention, to try and create some designated chair positions. You can delegate those certain tasks out to other people to help you, and in the same breath, you're also helping encourage and develop future leaders. And then lastly, please don't forget to keep your actives updated. You want to make sure that they know what's going on with recruitment or rush and that they can help get excited about it, help spread the word, and participate as much as possible. Continuing on, when you're creating the rest of your rush program, you want these events or the programs that you're leading, whether it's virtual or in person or a mixture of both, to highlight what your chapter does, to really sell what a student can get out of the fraternity, what their experiences will be like, and what some of the connections that they might be able to make while they're in this fraternity on campus. So really highlight LFS, obviously our 3 core principles. Host some events that maybe highlight what a chapter typically does, what your chapter typically does during the year. That can be some speakers, TED Talks, APO webinars. The APO Leads launch is online. So you can include that in your recruitment events if you like, to help acclimate brothers to what your leadership development program looks like. If your chapter does anything beyond that in the past or has a great community partner for this, definitely utilize that and highlight that. Same with fellowship. If you do things in person that you're no longer able to do this fall semester, try to find a virtual option on the flip side. If you typically do movie nights or game nights, there's a lot of different resources online to do those virtually. You can set up a Zoom night with active members and have them share some of their sparks in the past, their favorite memories from AFIO, share stories from conferences and things like that these incoming students probably won't see for another semester or 2, and hopefully get them excited at the future possibilities. And then lastly, your service program. Obviously, you want to highlight this in depth, especially related to what your typical service program looks like during the year. So what are your biggest service projects? What are you most known for on campus? Who are your community partners you typically work with? Highlight all of those. You want to do a meet and greet with actives as much as possible. That gets the actives participating more in your recruitment and rush programs. And it also helps the potential littles or pledges feel really excited to get to mix and mingle with the rest of the chapter brotherhood. And then the last piece of your rush program would be hosting an info meeting to give them all the general info on your chapter. And we'll go over that a little bit more in depth. Okay, so for setting up your info meetings that happen typically towards the end of your rush programs, you want to make sure at the beginning you set up a meeting agenda. And I reiterate this to any of our section chairs or region staff members. When we're setting up any meetings, we should be able to make a meeting agenda and send it out to everybody in advance so everybody knows what's on the game plan for the evening to discuss and what the purpose of the meeting is, because there's no worse meeting to set up than one that doesn't have a purpose. So with your rush meetings, you want to have a meeting that covers APO as an overview, and it goes over our founding principles and what the fraternity means. If you have a chapter value or mission statement, you can share the ones that are on the national website, just really giving everyone an idea of what Alpha Phi Omega is. You can introduce your membership committee members, definitely your membership VP, and any pledge educators or anybody who's really going to be working hands-on with the students during their pledge programs. You can include some chapter history, examples of chapter programs, any fun chapter traditions that you have. If you have an office on campus or anything special that you can highlight to kind of demonstrate your chapter history on this campus, that would be great to include. And then lastly, go over the general pledge requirements. So dues, if you have any LFS requirements this fall, if they have to meet with any actives or anything like that, you want to make sure that they know that from the get-go. I highly recommend, especially even if you have in-person meetings, to utilize PowerPoint. This is especially important over virtual meetings. Some people learn by listening, some are very visual learners and they need everything on the screen in front of them. So this kind of helps you hit both types of learners in one. And I can't reiterate this enough, especially for virtual meetings or virtual ceremonies. Please rehearse ahead of time. You want to make sure that you are all putting your best foot forward, especially if you have to meet virtually with all of your potential recruits. Make sure that your membership committee or whoever will be leading the presentation, especially if there's multiple speaking parts, that everybody meets ahead of time to rehearse. Everyone knows what their speaking parts are supposed to be. They know if they're supposed to be general question moments or opportunities for group activities, and that there's one seamless transition with the slides. Lastly, you want to have some type of informational flyer or a follow-up document, even a bullet list of what was covered and things to remember, upcoming important dates for the rest of the semester for pledges to know. Make sure there's some type of follow-up email either sent, follow-up message either sent over email or a group message or however you've been communicating with your potential recruitment members. Make sure that there's some type of follow-up. Don't leave them hanging after an info meeting, not knowing what to do. You can help advertise a central hub for information, whether you use a chapter APO online site or you have a chapter website. Give them maybe your chapter links for social media. There should be some place for a potential pledge on your campus to go to be able to find more information about the chapter. That way they don't have to rely on getting a hold of somebody over email or trying to get somebody's phone number and contact. You don't want to have 20 pledges having to text the membership VP to figure out when the next meeting is. So whether that's having really regular emails or having a website online, you want to make sure that they know there's one solid place that they can go to and they're getting that regular information. Lastly, with any type of membership program that you have, you want to make sure we're not forgetting retention. That is the most important piece of any membership program. And I think in the past, we've gotten really heavily focused on recruitment and rush. We want to have really big pledge classes. We want to have a ton of people show up to the rush events, but then we forget about retaining all of those pledges. And we forget about retaining the actives and associates that we do already have. So we won't last as a chapter if we place zero focus on retention. We have to have some plan in place for retention. And don't forget your actives and associates included in that. We don't want to just retain our brand new members. We also have to keep programs going on, especially by the membership VPs collaborating with their LFS VPs or chairs in the chapter exec to help host programs that inspire and encourage actives to stay more engaged. If you have any questions, I put my info here on the screen. You can also email Teresa, our region membership chair. Her email is regionhmembership@gmail.com, as well as contacting your chapter advisors and your section chairs. There's so many staff volunteers that we have that are ready and willing to help you all throughout the switch or permanent move to any virtual operations that you have to do for the next couple or few semesters. So if you are struggling with trying to plan anything for your fall membership programs, please reach out to any of the volunteers I mentioned and let them know that you need help coming up with some ways to either innovate some solutions or encourage more buy-in from your active brothers and get people excited to make the switch to virtual operations. I know that it's really, there's a lot of different changes that are happening, and it's a really different time than we've ever seen before in the fraternity, but I'm confident that we can innovate together and figure out solutions going forward so that we can keep as many chapters going in a healthy direction as we can. So thank you all for listening into this. I know this was a recorded webinar, so we will host more roundtables going forward to have a live presentation where everyone can share and ask questions. In the meantime, please reach out to those volunteers that I mentioned, and I wish you the best of luck with your fall recruitment programs. I can't wait to see all the pictures of our fall recruitment or pledge classes. Thank you all for joining me, and enjoy the rest of your evenings. Thank you.